As I stand here this morning, I just feel just so overwhelmed with gratitude. I don't know about you, but I just feel like yesterday and already this morning, it is just so outrageously good. God is so good, and it's been such a good time. I mean, I can't believe, I know this is really bad, but I cannot believe this is Synod. It's such a good time. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just outrageously good. And as I look back over yesterday, I mean, I'm just going to give you a few highlights, and in a moment I'm going to get you to share at your tables where for you, particularly yesterday, maybe did God turn up. But just to remind you, I mean, we started with that phenomenal morning worship with Chilton leading it, Chilton St James, and that was just, I don't know about you, but I found that profound. And then even we had that Board of Trustees presentation from John Hartley naming our reality and putting it out there, but actually... Thank you, Blueprint. Got bingo, did we? Thank you. Okay, well done, Blueprint, at the back there. We had that powerful motion recognising 40 years for the ordination of women. We had the refugee presentation. We had the Eucharist, which I don't know about you, but just all the chalices up here, and then coming back to the tables, and then Bishop Ali's homily in that Eucharist, just so powerful. And then to top it off last night with the trade school kitchen meal. I mean, it was just an outrageously good day, So why don't you at your tables just spend 1 minute just saying, where for you yesterday did God turn up? Okay, have a moment. Just as I enter into my charge this morning, I'm going to ask Nigel Dixon to just come and bring a picture, I think, which sets the scene for the charge that I'm going to give. So Nigel just came and shared this with me yesterday, and I just thought it was so relevant for this morning, so I've just asked Nigel to share it.
A few years ago, we planted some natives, and we started to see... Can't hear? That one? Okay. We started to see some native birds appear for the first time around our property, and about last year we had 2 or 3 tuis, and this year our kowhai has just like been a yellow sun, and it's been filled with tuis, like at least a dozen, and they've just gone crazy there. I feel like we as a diocese are coming into flower, and the tuis are coming. I don't know who they'll be. They'll be busted leaders, there'll be broken people, there'll be all sorts of stuff. And as the parable goes, the kingdom seed grows a tree, and the birds come and rest in it, and they poop everywhere. So the joy of being in flower and attracting the birds is work. But there are lost kingdom people who are coming, and I just feel God wants to assure us what is going on. The whispers of it, the rumours are down the valley, and the birds are coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. So I just want to, this morning, I just want to talk briefly around some of the tui that I think might come in the future. And also then I just want to finish with a couple of stories that, again, give you the opportunity to reflect on what maybe God is saying to you in this journey ahead. So I've just put a little list together of just some things I wonder which we may see increasing in fruitfulness in the future. This is just me having a go. This is not things deliberately that as a diocese we're going to energise. These are just things that I wonder if are going to happen a little bit. And these are maybe some tuis that may come into our tree. So I'm just going to go through this list. The first is the catechumenate. I think we could see ourselves reigniting and reimagining this deep historical discipline and see it fruitfully emerge again amongst us as a discipleship tool and as a tool of Christian faithfulness. And so I just wonder whether in the future we will see that rebirth in us again, connect to that great tradition that has fed the church for thousands of years. What we're already seeing, but I think we'll see more of, is actually the lay leadership of vestries and wardens being strengthened and stepping up, and empowering of them to lead out in our churches, and to realise that, the day of the vicar and the priest in charge doing everything and running everything is actually, no, it's the role of the priest is to equip for all of us to do the ministry. And what we're seeing is vestries and wardens really stepping into that. And I think going forward, we're going to see that so much more significantly. I think going forward too, we will see the Northern Archdeaconries. I think, if we're really honest, as I think I said quite a few years ago, probably there'll be very few parishes in the Northern Archdeaconries which in the last few years had grown, really. And I think we will see that turning around. I think there's lots and lots of signs of life and exciting things. Hard work, birds pooping, yep. And I think we're going to see some significant turning around of those realities. Also, I think we're going to, we may see some tuis come home in some of our larger parishes. It's true that I think our larger parishes in the last few years have struggled to be large parishes, really. And I think we're going to, there's a good chance that we will see that reality changing. And I'm excited by that. Maybe some of you won't be excited about this one, but Nick, the diocese manager, has got an assistant coming on board soon. And we've just realised there's so many kind of backroom projects that partly just things that are out of date, or partly the things that we never did, or partly now we need to align what we did now with our direction, our strategy and our culture. And so I think what's going to happen in the future is we're just going to see slowly just tick through all these kind of backroom infrastructure type projects that will resource us for mission in our local areas. And I'm looking forward to that. We talked yesterday through the Board of Trustees, and also in the hour and a half we had in the afternoon, where some went over and talked about housing. I think that the reality is we're going to grasp the nettle, and we're going to look at how we can use our property, and actually how we can actually maybe put housing on some of our vacant land, etc. And I think that's really exciting, and I think we will move from conversation to reality, and I'm hoping that will be true. Also, over the last few years, Trish Malcolm has done an amazing job of being the city missioner, etc. And now we've had a change of season, and Murray Edridge has come in, and he was actually here yesterday. Are you here today, Murray? No, he was here yesterday all day. And just with him coming in, and we've got John Hartley, who you saw on the Board of Trustees presentation. He's also chair of the Wellington City Mission Board. And I'm just seeing all sorts of synergy and dynamism now that is coming out of the city mission in relation to us as a diocese, in a way that, I don't think necessarily 6 years ago we would have seen. And so I actually just want to say, I think there's a tui here that might come home in a beautiful way, and I think we should watch that, and it's exciting, and I'm really excited what God's doing there. And again, it's laying on that foundation that Trish Malcolm has laid in the last few years, which we're very, very thankful for. The clusters that, as I said yesterday, this year have been going very, very well. But what I think we're going to see in the future is these clusters become so much more strategic and developmental, such that we'll actually see a far greater synergy across local parishes in a way that really supports and energises leadership going forward. And so I just think they're going to get better and better and better. Also, what's been interesting this year is just to watch the Owakuni as an example, and good to see you fellas there. And Ruapehu, sorry. Ratahi, Owakuni, Ruapehu, and the Carrots. But what's happened there is the Owakuni, the church, is kind of underutilised. Let's put it that way. It's a nice word, underutilised. But the parish has had a vote and has offered Chris Casey. Are you in the room, Chris? Chris Casey has got a dream that, to actually see that the hall there maybe is re-equipped to support ministry, particularly around skiing, and because that's, Owakuni's so placed for that. And it's just a wonderful, unique synergy between the parish and the diocese and the creativity and the innovation. And look, who knows if it's going to work? But the point is, there's this unique kind of imaginative way of reimagining what it could be in a real way that makes sense for that parish in that location at this point in history. And I think we'll see more of that in the future, where parishes reimagine themselves unique to their context and that creativity. And so I just want to say, I think that, there'll be some tuis in that area. I think this idea of sort of saying we want to actually, the very nature God wants to flourish His church and grow our parishes, I am pretty sure that these tuis are going to come home in more and more parishes are going to be hitting the 5%, and I sort of think that's great. That's some of the future will hold. Also, I think in the future, there will be some significant work around just strengthening the children and families. I don't know if you picked up though that thread yesterday of the selfish giant, and then into Ali's homily last night, and it's so much around family and so much maybe around some of the disappointment and pain around how we've struggled to be family, particularly around children and around supporting families, and I think that we can do better on that, and I'm excited by that. I'm excited by the fact that I think God's going to do something amongst us there, which is going to be beautiful. So look, there's just some thoughts, some tuis that might come in. But what I'm going to do is I want to give you some time at your tables again, like we did yesterday, to just have a few-minute conversation, and then I'm going to come back to some stories, but a few-minute conversations about what tuis do you think might also come in to land in your local trees, but also maybe might come into land in the diocese. Again, and we're just wondering, we're just allowing God to use our imaginations to think what could be these tuis that are coming in. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, and then I'm going to pull it back for a couple of stories, okay? Thanks. Apologies, I missed one on that list. What I think, one more tui that on that list was our role in the province. I think through people like Archdeacon Wendy Scott and before David Kendall, but now John Whitehead and our Chancellor Tony Hill and others, I think we're just offering a lot more back, and we're starting to see our role in the province that we're just being a bit more of a blessing, which I think going forward, again, I think we'll just see that more and more, and I think that's really great, and I think that's really healthy. Just as I come to these two stories then again, which I think just speak of our reality going forward, and I want you to reflect in your context about what these stories may mean to you, and I'm going to get Caleb again to read. There has been a request that we just get Caleb to keep reading things to us. And so we may put up audiobooks of Caleb's voice for us all to enjoy going forward. But just before we come to these two stories, one of the key principles, this principle of being family, which is in the end, the tuis will come because, yes, God builds His church, but because also we partner in that. And how we partner in that is that we actually rise together. Each individual table here, in the end, we're not enough. Together we are the body of Christ, and together we are enough in Christ. And there's this idea that maybe at this table there's not enough, or at that table there's not enough, but between these two tables together, there is more than enough. And one of the great joys I heard of this year, and I won't mention the parish, but I literally heard of a parish that says, we know of a parish next door which is struggling to meet its stipended obligations, and we want to contribute some money to that parish so they can meet their stipend. I mean, that's it, isn't it? That's it. I mean, isn't that what we're about. And like, won't it be a wonderful moment when we see many tuis come home where we say, hey, I've got a team of people who can go over here and replant this parish. And they will go, and yeah, it'll cause a little gap amongst us for a while, but we will go and we will flourish over here, these people. Won't that be a great moment when that happens, eh? And won't it be a great moment when somebody says, hey, we've got this church that ultimately we think we should sell, but actually, as opposed to just putting the money in an account, we realise that over there on the other side of the diocese, they actually need that because they actually need to build themselves this for the kingdom of God because it's flourishing there. Won't it be a great day where we just say, hey, we want that to go over there? Won't that be a great day? And when those things happen, that's when we rise together, and that's when the tuis come home. And when the tuis come home, it's going to be great. So as Caleb comes and reads us two stories, one you have heard often. It was read at, I think, my installation as bishop. And the second one is kind of the flip to it. So Caleb's just going to read them, and then we're going to ask some questions at our table.
Long ago, a prince dreamed of creating more than a geographical or political kingdom. He dreamed of making a community where everyone cared for their neighbour, even at a cost to self. So the prince called a meeting where each chieftain and his clan were invited to join in the foundation of the new society. As part of the beginning of this new community, each was asked to search his cellar for the best wine produced from his ancestral vines. These treasured bottles would be uncorked, poured into a great communal vat, and blended into a common vintage. But one wine grower said, "How can I mix my exquisite wine with that of my neighbours? I would violate my art as a winemaker. Impossible. Give up my distinct variety, lose my separate self." So he corked a bottle of tap water, stuck his most beautiful label on the bottle, and at the time of the ritual, poured the water ceremoniously into the vat. When the covenant was sealed, all filled their glasses for the communal draught. As the cups touched their lips, all knew the truth. It was not wine, it was water. No one had the courage to pay the price. The second story. Once upon a time, just as the sun was setting, 3 weary travellers came to the edge of a town. Their feet were blistered, their mouths were dry, and their bellies were aching with hunger. "I'm starving," moaned the first. "I'm exhausted," groaned the second. "Let's stop in this town and ask for help," said the third. Now the people who lived in this town were by no means rich, and what little food they had, they always kept for themselves, hiding it even from their friends and relations. When they looked out of their houses and saw the 3 travellers, they said to each other, "Look, hungry strangers! We know what they want. Quick, let's hide all the food and pretend we have nothing." And that's exactly what they did. The travellers came to the first house and knocked gently on the door. "Good day and peace be with you. Will you please kindly share with us a little of your food, and we'll tell you all about our travels in return," they promised. "Sorry," said the man of the house, "we gave all our spare food to the travellers who came here last week." The travellers sighed and went to the next house. "Go away," said the owners. "The harvest was very bad this year, and every bit of food we've had, it's gone." At every house, the answer was the same. The townspeople always found an excuse. Their children were sick, they had relatives staying, or they were going away. The travellers knew that they were being lied to, but what could they do? They were just about to give up and leave the town when one of the travellers had an idea. "The people here have a lot to learn," he said. "Let's play a trick on them and teach them a very big lesson." And so, in whispers and secret signs, he told his two companions his plan, and as the plan unfolded, they nodded and grinned from ear to ear. As soon as they were ready to put their plan into action, the first traveller spoke in a big, booming voice so that the nearby townspeople were sure to hear. "Oh, how terribly sad that the poor people in this town have no food," he said. "But never mind, we three shall go to the town square, and there, as night falls, we shall make a pot of our delicious and nutritious stone soup." When they heard this, the townspeople were extremely curious. They never heard of stone soup and wondered how it was made and what it tasted like. "How do you make stone soup?" they asked the travellers. "Oh, we'll show you," replied the first. "Follow us," said the second. And bring a big empty pot with you and some firewood too," said the third. And so they did. Arriving in the town square, one of the travellers made a fire, another filled the empty pot with water, and the third placed it over the fire to boil. "And now," said the first, "for the special ingredients." With a grand and dramatic flourish, so that everyone could see, he reached into a leather satchel, took out 3 smooth round stones, and plopped them into the pot of water. "Soon we shall feast," he exclaimed, stirring the pot with a big wooden spoon. As the rumour of a feast spread round the town, an excited crowd began to gather in the square. "Just as we planned," whispered the first traveller to his friends. After the pot of water had been boiling for some time, the travellers began to sniff the air and lick their lips. "And now," said the first, "I will taste it." As the traveller lifted a spoonful of bubbling water to his mouth, the crowd craned forward to hear his verdict. "Oh, it's completely delicious," he announced. At this, the crowd gasped and gurgled with delight. "True," continued the traveller, "some people might say that it needs a little salt and pepper, but apart from that, it's practically perfect." No sooner had he said this than the townspeople sent their children hurrying home to fetch salt and pepper, which the clever travellers added to the pot. After a while, the second traveller tasted the soup. "Mmm," he said, rubbing his belly and moaning with appreciation. "These extraordinary stones do indeed make an excellent soup, although perhaps just a few carrots would make it a little bit more delicious." Just then, an old woman in the crowd called out, "Oh, now that I think of it, I believe I may have a carrot or two in the house." And straight away she scurried home and returned carrying a whole sackful of carrots, which the travellers quickly sliced and added to the pot. I suppose a perfect stone soup would also have some onions," said the third traveller. "But what's the point of dreaming about ingredients that we simply haven't got?" At this, An old man's voice was heard from the middle of the growing crowd. "Well, I've got some onions," he cried, and off he shuffled, returning a few moments later, wheeling a barrel full of onions. After another tasting session, the first traveller paused with a look of pure ecstasy on his face, before finally declaring, "This stone soup is totally scrumptious. Although, I suppose possibly some potatoes and perhaps some oil would improve the flavour, just ever so slightly. But apart from that, well, maybe some barley and some herbs and a drop of milk or cream. I can truly say that the king himself would be happy to eat this most delicious and nutritious stone soup." When the crowd heard these words, they were deeply impressed, and off they ran to fetch all the food which they had hidden earlier that evening, and soon they returned with sacks and barrows full of tasty ingredients, which the travellers piled into the pot as quickly as they could. "Food fit for a king," murmured the townspeople, "and all made just from stones. Isn't it amazing?" Finally, the travellers announced that the soup was ready. "But don't worry," said the first. "There's enough for everybody." Tables and chairs were placed in the square, and bowls and spoons and napkins too. Torches were lit, and decorations were hung. In the middle of the hustle and bustle, a townsman called out, "A soup as special as this deserves nothing but the best. Let's fetch bread and beer and barrels of wine." And so the feast began, and everyone agreed they'd never tasted anything so delicious in their entire lives. And when the feast was over, the townspeople listened with rapt attention to the travellers as they told tales from far and wide, and the townspeople told the travellers about their lives in the town. And then there was singing and there was dancing until late into the night. Early in the morning, just as the sun was rising, the travellers began to depart. Thank you so much for teaching us how to make stone soup," said the townspeople. "Oh, you're very welcome," replied the travellers, nodding and grinning. Be sure to visit us again," said the townspeople. "Oh, we certainly will," said the travellers. And they did, and they all lived happily ever after.